Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something pretty heavy actually, but really important. The toxic workplace.
Yeah, something a lot of people unfortunately experience.
Exactly. And you shared a few really insightful articles with us. We've got 12 clear signs you're in a toxic workplace, another 12 signs of toxic workplace culture and how to combat it, and also 20 signs you're in a toxic work environment and what to do.
Right, good range there.
Our goal today really is to sift through all this, cut through the noise, and give everyone listening a clearer picture. What does a toxic environment actually look like, feel like? What are the real impacts?
And crucially, what can you actually do about it?
Yes, empowering people with some actual knowledge.
Because, when we look at these articles together, they really do shine a light on it. Think about that Sunday night feeling, that dread.
Yeah, that knot in your stomach.
Exactly. These articles help frame that. It might not just be you being stressed, it could be a reaction to the environment itself.
So recognizing it is key. That's the first step.
Absolutely. Seeing those patterns.
Okay, so let's dive in. What is a toxic workplace, really? Because, every job has tough days, demanding bosses.
That's a really important distinction. It's not just a bad week or like a really intense project deadline.
Right.
It's more of an ongoing pattern, a persistent negativity dysfunction.
Yeah.
It creates this constant emotional strain.
Okay, a pattern.
Yeah. And one of the sources specifically mentions how these places tend to make employees feel, well, punished, rejected, guilty, defensive,
Yeah.
even humiliated.
Wow, those are strong words.
They are. And what's really insidious is how sometimes bad behavior actually gets rewarded.
Rewarded. How?
Well, maybe the bully gets promoted or the person who cuts corners gets praised for speed.
Yeah.
And if you try to speak up about problems,
Yeah.
you might face negative consequences yourself.
Yeah.
So that erodes any feeling of, psychological safety.
Yeah,
You just can't speak freely.
got it. So it's deep-seated, unhealthy dynamics, not just a bad mood in the office. Now, those titles promise lists of signs 12, 12, even 20. That sounds like a lot to keep track of.
It does sound like a lot, yeah. But what's interesting is when you look across all three articles, you see the same themes popping up again and again.
Okay.
So we can kind of group them together. Makes it a bit easier to get your head around.
Good idea. Where should we start?
Let's start with something I think many people unfortunately recognize. That feeling of constant pressure, always being on the edge of burnout.
Right, the chronic stress and burnout culture, never switching off.
Precisely. All the sources hit on this. It's the normalization of, crazy long hours, working through lunch, weekends.
That whole hustle culture thing?
Yeah, celebrating the grind. But the articles emphasize the damage this does long term. It can be that sort of frenetic, always pushing burnout.
Mm-hmm.
But also, interestingly, one mentioned under-challenged burnout, where you're bored and disengaged, but it still drains you.
Huh. Didn't think about that type. So either way, it's exhausting.
Totally exhausting.
Guy has X.
And it chips away at your health.
Okay, what's another big theme? Communication comes up a lot, right? Or lack thereof.
Oh, absolutely. A
Yes,
huge
sir.
one. And it's not just not getting information. It's the way communication happens or doesn't happen.
How so?
Well, think of really poor information flow, maybe things being kept deliberately secret,
Okay.
mixed messages that just leave you confused, even passive-aggressive stuff.
Ugh. Yeah, like snarky emails.
Exactly. Or just feeling constantly out of the loop on company goals, big news, even basic policies.
And that lack of transparency, it breeds mistrust, doesn't it?
Totally. One article put it really well. It makes it harder to do your job, obviously,
Huh.
but it also actively erodes trust. It's like trying to navigate a maze blindfolded.
Yeah, good analogy. Okay, what about feeling like you're not trusted? Like someone's always looking over your shoulder, micromanagement.
Yes, that constant monitoring, no freedom in how you do your work,
Yeah.
it can make you feel, well, infantilized, like a kid.
Polyized, yeah.
Yeah.
Disrespected.
Deeply disrespected. And as one source said, it just crushes morale and stifles any kind of innovation. If your boss doesn't trust you, why would you stick your neck out and try something new?
Good point. It undermines your whole investment in the work.
Completely.
Okay, and this one seems maybe obvious, but what if you see people leaving all the time? High turnover.
Huge red flag. All the sources highlight this. If people are constantly heading for the door, especially quickly after starting,
Yeah.
it usually points to deeper systemic problems that aren't being fixed.
And management might ignore it.
Sometimes, yeah. One article mentioned that management often overlooks or dismisses high turnover, which is kind of a sign in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, denial. Okay, what about the social side? The gossip, cliques, office politics feels like high school sometimes?
That's such a good way to put it. The articles talk about favoritism, those in crowds that exclude people,
Mm-hmm.
the whispering, the stares,
Uh,
the snide comments. It just breaks down trust between colleagues, turns it from a team into, like you said, a social battlefield.
yeah,
And it kills psychological safety again.
definitely. And the flip side of all that negativity, what about when you do good work and crickets? No recognition.
Oh, that's incredibly demoralizing.
Yeah.
When your successes just vanish, but every tiny mistake gets put under a
Yeah.
microscope,
Yeah.
it makes you feel invisible, totally undervalued. Why bother putting in the extra effort if it's never acknowledged?
Erodes motivation fast.
Very fast.
Now, sadly, the articles also cover more serious stuff, bullying and harassment.
Yes, and it's important to see that this isn't always overt shouting matches. It can be subtle, like constant passive aggression, intimidation.
Okay.
Often comes down to power imbalances, abuse of authority.
Oh,
And the sources stress this isn't just bad for the person targeted, it creates a hostile environment and serious legal risks for the company.
right. Needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another source of stress seems to be just not knowing what you're supposed to be doing. Unclear roles and expectations.
Surprisingly common, actually.
Yeah.
All three sources mention this. Your responsibilities keep changing. You don't know how you're being judged, what the goals are.
Leads to anxiety.
Huge anxiety, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely contributes to burnout. Plus, it causes conflict, people stepping on toes because nobody's clear on who does what, just dysfunction.
And related to that, maybe, is seeing unfairness,
Hmm.
inequality, favoritism.
Yeah, when you see promotions or the best projects going to the boss's favorites, not based on merit,
Right.
it's profoundly demoralizing for everyone else who's working hard.
Mm-hmm.
Breeds resentment, division, and again, potential legal issues for the company if it's discriminatory.
Okay. Then there's that climate of fear, the blame culture. No room for mistakes.
Ugh, yes, so stifling. Mistakes are how we learn, right? But if they're punished harshly and there's no safety to experiment or even just admit an error,
People just play it safe.
exactly, creativity dies, innovation stalks, everyone's just scared of getting yelled at or worse.
And what about work-life balance? Or the lack of it?
A classic sign. Toxic cultures often ignore boundaries. That expectation to be always on.
Checking email at 10 p.m.
Right. Intrusive contact after hours, work prioritized above everything else, maybe even rewarding people who don't take vacation.
Wow. Rewarding that.
Yeah, subtly or not so subtly. That constant pressure for immediate responses, it just burns people out and damages their health.
Toxic leadership is a term that comes up a lot, too. What does that actually look like in terms of behavior?
The articles list a few things consistently. Lack of empathy is a big one. Poor listening skills. Maybe narcissistic traits.
Okay.
That whole do as I say, not as I do vibe. Leaders who only want yes men, who blame everyone else, think the rules don't apply to them.
Right.
One source even tied consistently poor pay to toxic leadership, like fundamentally not valuing employees and how leaders behave. That really sets the tone for the whole place.
Makes sense. Okay, a term we hear more now is gaslighting. How does that play out at work?
It's basically manipulation to make you doubt yourself, your own reality. Like denying something happened when you know it did,
Yeah.
twisting the truth, giving you contradictory feedback, and then blaming you for being confused.
Wow. That's really damaging.
Incredibly damaging. It erodes your confidence, makes you question your own judgment. It's not just disagreement, it's trying to undermine your perception.
And for a lot of people, work isn't just about the now, it's about the future. What about lack of career support?
Huge issue. Feeling stuck, like you're in a dead-end job, no clear path up, no mentorship, feeling disconnected from the team's future.
Like a hostage in your role.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Just trapped, with no way to grow your career.
We mentioned negativity before, but low morale itself. Can you see that in tangible ways?
Oh, definitely.
Hmm.
Frequent absenteeism is a sign. People just seem apathetic. There's a general cloud of negativity that just hangs over everything and drags everyone down. Needs addressing fast before it spirals.
One article mentions sick guilt. What's that?
It's feeling ashamed or obligated when you're sick and can't perform 100%. So you might avoid taking time off, even if you really need it, because you feel guilty.
Instead of feeling supported to recover.
Exactly. A healthy place makes it safe to take sick time.
And some signs go beyond just how people treat each other, right? Like unethical practices.
Definitely. If you see the company being dishonest with customers or even employees, it says a lot about the core integrity or lack thereof, suggests problems right at the top.
Right. And just that gut feeling, Feeling unsafe or really uncomfortable at work?
That's fundamental. If the place itself or the people just make you feel consistently uneasy, anxious, not secure, that's a huge warning sign. You should feel safe and respected.
Okay, and the last few seem to tie back to earlier points, no freedom or flexibility.
Yeah, overly rigid rules that just get in the way.
No support from HR if you raise issues.
Right. HR being ineffective or unwilling to help.
And just a general sense that the company doesn't care about employee well-being.
Exactly. No programs, no effort to support mental or physical health. It all sends a message. You don't matter. All these things weave together to create that toxic picture.
It really does paint a stark picture. And the consequences. This is where it gets really serious for individuals, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just about being unhappy at work. The articles are clear. We see major declines in mental health, burnout, depression, anxiety, sleep problems, panic attacks,
Wow.
and physical health too.
Okay.
Chronic stress shows up as headaches, fatigue, digestive issues, a weaker immune system so you get sick more often, even serious stuff long-term like high blood pressure, heart problems.
So more sick days makes sense.
Exactly. Takes a real toll.
And it's not just the individual's health. What about actually getting work done? Productivity, innovation.
Takes a massive hit. If you're working in fear or resentment, creativity just dries up. You see lower output, projects that get delayed because collaboration breaks down, more mistakes happen, people are absent more. The company itself suffers, its performance, its reputation.
Right. And that high turnover we talked about, that has wider impacts too.
Huge impacts. Good people leave, which puts more strain on those left behind. You lose all that knowledge and experience. Plus, it costs a fortune to keep hiring and training new people.
And the company gets a bad reputation.
Exactly. A reputation for being toxic makes it way harder to attract good talent in the future. It's a vicious cycle.
It's sobering too how this stuff spills over into personal life. Damaging relationships.
Definitely. The stress and negativity don't just stay at the office door. It strains relationships with family, friends. And inside work, toxicity can pit colleagues against each other. It's isolating.
And all that negativity, it must really chip away at your confidence over time, maybe even stall your career.
It really can. Constant criticism, no positive feedback, maybe subtle manipulation. It erodes your self-esteem. You start doubting yourself, feeling like an imposter.
Makes it hard to go for promotions or even look for another job.
Much harder. You lose that belief in yourself.
And for the company itself, this isn't just bad ethic, it's bad business, right? Legal risks, financial hits.
Absolutely. Companies can face lawsuits for harassment, discrimination. Their reputation tanks with bad reviews, customers leave, and the data is compelling. One article cited an MIT Sloan study. Found that a toxic culture is over 10 times more likely to predict turnover than pay.
10 times. More than pay.
More than pay.
Yeah.
And WellHub data echoed that toxic culture over 10 times more powerful than compensation in predicting turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, employees in toxic places are 3 times more likely to suffer mental health harm.
Wow.
And listen to this, 83% of employees would think about leaving a company that doesn't focus on well-being, and 90% say well-being impacts their productivity.
Those numbers are staggering. They really show how much this matters for everyone.
Absolutely underscores the massive impact.
Okay, so if someone listening is thinking, oh my gosh, that sounds like my workplace, what can they actually do? It can feel so overwhelming, like you're stuck.
It really can feel that way. But there are things you can do. Proactive steps. First, and this is crucial, document everything.
Document, like keep a diary.
Exactly. Keep a detailed private log.
Yeah.
Dates, times, what happened, who was involved. Save problematic emails or messages. Note down conversations with HR or managers.
Why is that so important?
It's evidence. It protects you. If you decide to report things formally later, or even seek legal advice, having that detailed record is invaluable.
Okay, document everything. What else? Boundaries seem key?
Absolutely essential. Setting and reinforcing personal boundaries. Decide. No emails after 7 p.m. Politely say no to tasks way outside your job description. Consciously disengage from gossip.
And you have to stick to it, right? Not just once.
Consistency is everything. Calmly, consistently reinforce those lines.
And you don't have to go through this alone, right? Seeking support.
Definitely not alone. Talk to a trusted mentor, maybe a sort of coworker, a manager who isn't part of the problem if you feel safe.
What about HR?
HR can be an option, but you have to gauge if it feels safe and potentially helpful in your specific situation. Sometimes it is, sometimes less so.
Right.
And look outside work, too. A therapist, a career coach, a legal advisor, especially if there's harassment or discrimination,
Hmm.
getting external perspective is huge.
It also sounds like you need to be really honest with yourself about the situation. Evaluate your options.
Yes, take a hard, objective look. Is the toxicity one person, or is it baked into the culture? Has the company ever actually fixed problems like this before? Is there any realistic hope for change?
Or are you just surviving day to day?
Exactly. Maybe a transfer to another department could work. Or maybe
Yeah.
it's just clear things won't get better there.
Which leads to planning an exit strategy.
If it's bad, persistent, and hurting your well-being, yes. Planning your exit gives you back some control. Update your resume, quietly network, start applying strategically.
Better than just quitting impulsively.
Much better. Leaving with a plan, even a rough one, is empowering.
And after leaving, that damage to confidence we talked about, rebuilding that seems crucial.
So important. Give yourself time to process, but try not to blame yourself unduly. Reflect on what you learned, how resilient you were. Reconnect with your strengths, your passions outside work. Healing is part of moving forward.
Definitely. And finally, know your rights.
Absolutely critical. Research labor laws in your area. Talk to a lawyer if you're facing discrimination, harassment, unsafe conditions. You have a right to a safe, respectful workplace. Knowing your rights is self-advocacy.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, we've covered a lot. The many faces of toxic workplaces, from subtle stuff like poor communication to overt bullying.
And the really significant impact it has. Mental health, physical health, career,
That
relationships.
affects everything. And the key takeaway really is recognizing these signs isn't being weak or complaining. It's the vital first step to acknowledging what's happening and protecting yourself.
Exactly. So if any of this resonated, if it sounded familiar, take some time to reflect. Maybe start that documentation we talked about. Even small steps like setting one clear boundary about your time. That can be a powerful start.
And here's a final thought to chew on. These articles make it clear a healthy workplace isn't a luxury, it's fundamental for people and for the company's success.
Mm.
So, thinking about that, what's one small thing you, the listener, could maybe do, either in your own approach or by speaking up if it feels safe? Something to foster a slightly healthier environment, even if you're not the boss.
Maybe just refusing to participate in gossip. Or being clearer about your after-hours availability. Small ripples can make a difference.
Definitely worth thinking about.
And we really encourage everyone to maybe revisit these articles, dig a little deeper. There's so much more info out there. And understanding these dynamics better gives you more tools.
Hmm.
And, what other questions do people have? We'd love to hear them, maybe tackle them next time.